sustainable future for fashion and how digital fashion innovations will boost the success of small Ukrainian fashion brands. And here it's important to understand what digital innovations suit to my business, suit to my needs, and suit especially to the size of my business. Because here in Ukraine, we still have a lot of small and mid-sized fashion brands who still have to catch up with the digital and also sustainable transformation agenda. Because what is important to understand is that until 2020, the growth in the fashion industry was defined by big volume, pushing and pressing big volume in the market, and gaining by that market share was the lever to gain recognition and also to grow. Brands from the H&M Group, Inditex, and also Arcadia, with Topshop and Topman, did this very, very successfully for decades. And also I can remember from my time at working at Zalando, we basically, for the last 5 years, based our growth on these brands. Because also for retailers, pushing volume in the market was the key to gain market share. But then 2020 happened last year, and I think the whole industry, the whole fashion industry had to face a lot of challenges. The Corona crisis worked as a fire accelerator for many trends and innovations which were kicked off, for example, already in 2012, but really pushed and created a rapid change. I tried to summarize this in the triangle of challenges, how I call it. So from my point of view, 3 major challenges the fashion industry had to face in 2020, which was a very decisive and direction-giving year, creating pressure on profitability and in general corporate existence for big but also especially smaller brands. So of course a big challenge was digitalization, because the fashion industry was up till then an industry still very highly reliant on offline channels. With lockdowns and retailers which could not operate, it was of course a strong push in order to digitalize and to find solutions still to operate in the new circumstances and in the new challenges. The second challenge is definitely consumer shifts, because the size of millennials and Gen Z in our society is growing and growing, and with that also the consumer shifts are more into transparency, caring and sustainability. And also the Corona situation, by being in lockdown, sitting together with your family, being limited with traveling, I think also changed the values and also the consumer importance for certain topics into more sustainable topics than before. And by that, ultimately, the third challenge is for sure sustainability, because as I said, the share of millennials and also Gen Z is shifting, and by that also the willingness to pay more for sustainable brands. So from just gaining growth, volume and market share with 2020 and the named new challenges, we see since 2020 a new understanding of growth. So growth is no longer defined with volume and pressing volume into the market, but is defined or can be generated by the smart use of resources, and this can be technology, and this can be people, and this can be fabrics, and by creating an impact, here talking about an impact for our environment, for our society in terms of being a sustainable company, being a sustainable brand. So what is the key takeaway, what we've seen when it comes to digital technologies and sustainability? So we are in the middle of a strong transformation from physical to digital mindset, and at the same time acknowledging the environmental and social importance. And this triangle was leading to the fact that especially in the last year, brands got flooded and companies and providers created many digital solutions, also the sustainable impact these different tools can have. It's very easy to understand that, like I said, many tools, many innovations, many providers have come up in the last 12 to 24 months, and it's really difficult, especially for smaller brands or mid-sized brands, to identify exactly the right levers, exactly the right tools to really boost my business and boost my success. So in planning and merchandising, for example, we have AI trend forecasting and AI powered merchandising in order to be more on demand and to provide the right items at the right time, and in order to create less samples, less overstock, and less waste. In creation and design, we have a huge impact and a huge flood of 3D design solutions, working with avatars, working with 3D modeling. I think this is really a trend no one could miss, in order to also create less samples, less waste, and to be more flexible in reacting to trends. The next one is production and sourcing. Here, digital sourcing platforms arose in the last 12 to 24 months in order to bring transparency, especially in the sustainable area, to understand who of my producers, manufacturers, really produces in a sustainable manner, but at the same time also give local producers, local manufacturers the chance to present themselves in order to make on-demand manufacturing and on-demand production possible, to have short lead times, short supply chains, less logistics with air freight, etc. And of course 3D printing as a form to also again create less overstock and to create less waste. And the fourth, and for now last section, is, and probably also one of the most important sections, because in the end, what does create revenue in our businesses? And this is the relationship, the sales part to our B2B and our B2C customers. So what we've seen in the last month is that many digital showroom solutions were created. Digital fashion shows are hosted, like the Ukraine Fashion Week is also doing everything in a fully digital way. And for our B2C and end consumers, virtual clothes and virtual changing rooms are provided in order to, like also said, less samples, less returns, less travel, and also to speed up the process in terms of lead times. And all of this in the end serves our new customer demand, our new customer needs, and at the same time our profitability. So I think there's a huge variety, a huge complexity of new tools and innovations in the market. And like I said, now it's the challenge to define the right ones for the respective size of your business. Not to hide that not only from a business point of view and from an environmental point of view, all these new tools have the benefits. It's also worth to mention that especially the 3D modeling has also a huge marketing and PR benefit. So this is, for example, a great project that was shown already 2 or 3 years ago to me at Zalando. This is an example. This is a project from Puma, and they did this collection fully digital, 3D design, presenting it on avatars, and I think this is already very futuristic, very inspirational, and for that the marketing and the PR aspect, which is behind also this 3D modeling, should not be underestimated, because especially There is another example from Buffalo with filters and really with the 3D design. It's definitely also the right way of communicating and creating input, inspirational input for the generations I just touched, millennials and Gen Z, because they are fully digital, they are fully on social media, but also waiting for inspirational and different input and communication ways. So not only from the sustainable and digital point of view, but also from the marketing and PR point of view are these, for example, the 3D design, a huge benefit. And let me also give you a little story from a client I was working with here in Ukraine. It was a small Ukrainian brand, and they were exploring a lot the 3D modeling aspect. They invested a lot of money, and they said, Sabrina, this is really, we invested a lot. We invested a lot of our financial capabilities. We invested a lot manpower in this in order to create our collection fully in 3D and fully digital. And we're doing this because we understand that that we can have an impact in a sustainable future. And apart from that, it's a strong marketing and PR tool, because by that we could really gain a complete different audience of consumers and customers. But the funny thing is, they said, Sabrina, in the end, our consumers and customers for what we are doing this are not fully, they did not have the digital transformation yet, because as soon as they saw the product, they said, yes, it looks really great, but when can we try it on? When can we touch it? What is the exact fabric? What is the right color? And here, this point, I think, should not be underestimated, that the consumers, our customers, have not fully transformed to a digital mindset when it comes to fashion buying and fashion consumption yet. That's why, in order to answer what digital innovation, what tool is the right for my business as a small Ukrainian or general small brand, I think we need to take a step back. And so what is the right tool within the whole supply chain? I think we need to take a step back and have to ask ourselves, what do all these tools basically have in common? And now it would be good to get to the next slide, exactly. And basically the Ukrainian brand I was talking to gave us already the answer. Still, virtual fashion cannot offer to try things on, to try the product on, to touch the fabric and to check the colors. And they said, you know, basically it ended up that we received a lot of returns, and this is basically also the risk we see in a lot of these new digital technologies. So the risk for returns, as I said, and apart from the fact that returns hurting and impacting the profitability of the business very much, apart from that, we could also see in 2020 that returns generated in total. So unfortunately, the clicker is not really working. Generated over 15 million tons of carbon dioxide. This was only last year. So apart from returns hurting businesses and profitability, it's also having a big negative impact on our environment still. So to give you a little example, from my time at Zalando, we could see that still returns also harming the businesses of big international online players. So for example, Zalando and ASOS still generate a return rate over 50%, although they're really heavily investing in AI and sizing tools. And Zalando, for example, is generating in certain product categories up to a return rate of 75%. And also ASOS in certain markets, for example, Germany, with like a return habit budget and the customer mindset, it's still used to returning things back. A return rate is also up to 75%. And to dive a little bit deeper and to understand why digital innovations are so wisely or have to be wisely selected, especially for smaller brands, the return reasons for online purchased items are basically as following. So 52% of the returned goods are based to fit, and the core of the problem is the massive variability in sizing from one brand to the other, and that sizing has not been standardized. And fact is that also 3D modeling and 3D design can also not wash away the fact that we still have a huge variability and a huge diversification from one size and measures within one brand to the others, especially when like designer brands, younger brands with less customer experience and data points on sizing and quality. There is a huge differentiation and massive gap between one brand and the other. And the second fact is that 24% of the returned good is due to customers being disappointed with the quality and color compared to what they've seen online. And the last point, also touching the customer mindset. So 41% of our customers admit that they order multiple articles in order to have the chance to select then back at home on the right fit, on the right style, on the right color. So while ordering, they already know that they will send back 50 to 70% of the ordered items. So coming back to our initial question, where as a small brand should I allocate my resources to? Like my financial resources, my human resources, because the fact is smaller and mid-sized brands have limited, especially also here in Ukraine, limited capacity of finance and also people. So here I can give basically two core recommendations and two core advices from working with brands here. So the first good advice is to explore definitely 3D modeling to secure flexibility and to secure profitability. Because the advantage of 3D modeling and 3D design is, like I said, the flexibility. It's easy from a small scale to explore new audiences with using 3D modeling as a marketing and PR tool, exploring potentials to broaden your product range, testing new products in the market with your new consumer group, with partners, with markets, because you don't have to physically resource, sew the item, send it to partners, send it to PR agencies. It's very much from a time-wise and from a money-wise perspective, hardly to recommend to invest in these 3D models. And you can see that tools are improving and features are improving, and that from a customer perspective, items getting more and more real. So it's definitely from a development point of view, the future, and something especially smaller brands should use to gain more information about their target audience, and also in terms of business growth, and to gain experience and to invest in that. And the second advice I can give is, apart from only looking into your own businesses, I always give the advice to the brands I'm working with is to make your business process-wise ready to cooperate with the big digital fashion players. Go into alliances, partnerships, cooperations with bigger fashion platforms, because they have the human and the financial resources to heavily invest in digital innovations and to benefit from these innovations and these data points. Because as you can remember the slide with the different areas of the supply chain, as a smaller brand you don't have so many data points, customer touch points, customer data points to analyze, and data driven with AI drive conclusions and next measures for the next collection. But big digital platforms and digital players have. So go into alliances and collaboration with them in order to benefit from these data hubs they have. And to also give you a little example on the pilot we did also at Zalando back in the days. We did a pilot with some smaller local heroes and some smaller local brands. And we teamed up with a digital, with an app provider. It's not the provider I've shown here, it was a separate one. But what we did in order to promote and give customers the security to try and buy smaller local brands, because in the end no one has with a smaller brand experiences and quality and size. So what we try to merge is that with an app, the perfect clothing fit with just one turn and one interaction in front of the smartphone could be generated. So the app was measuring you, your whole body, and with these measurements we interconnected all the data points we had in our Zalando database in terms of measurements of the product of each brand. So for example, a girl was looking for a pullover, had certain measurements, and we could give with an algorithm the recommendation, especially also promoting smaller local brands, to say, okay, go with this brand, size X, with that brand you need to have size large, and with the other brand you have to have size M, for example. With this data, intertwined data, providing at the same time a digital wardrobe, we could, gathering all this together and then coming also back to our risk of returns, we could reduce the return rate, so the product returns because of size, by almost 50%, and could even increase the average piece price by 10%, because we gave our customers, the consumers, the security to also buy more expensive products online. And I think this shows that it's worth it to step out of the view only on your company, what digital technologies, new innovations you can use for your own company, rather than to broaden your view and work and collaborate with others. So in a nutshell, what can I recommend for a smaller brand here in Ukraine is to speed up and focus on the transformation in the sustainable and digital sector, and for that prioritize your needs. Look into the 3D modeling, because it has not only from a product but also from a full range point of view many potentials to push the performance and the size of your brand. And the last recommendation is to go into collaboration, not to look into silos and your single brand anymore, but to go into alliances, because otherwise, just as a single player in a silo, you will probably miss the train of sustainable and digital innovation in this now fast-moving and changing fashion industry. And this is basically what I have for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and yeah, good luck.
Мы знали, что вам было тесно, поэтому мы создали совершенно другой ММР. Больше контента, больше тем, больше экспертов, больше амбиций, больше влияния. Погрузитесь в диджитал, мобайл, пиар, соушал медиа, дизайн, креатив, маркетинг, медиа, назначение, тренды. Погрузитесь в новый ММР.